All right. All right. Yes, it is me, Harry James Taylor. We're now going to break down the final game for Oklahoma. Landry Jones, possibly Kenny Stills, Tony Jefferson, and Trey Mullard. I think that one of the three youngsters, and I'm talking about Stills, McTwire, and Jefferson, or Millard and Jefferson, one of those three will stay. And if you can get two of three to stay, you're in good shape. If we can get all three to stay, that would be awesome. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am going to say that the Cotton Bowl is going to happen. Two pretty good teams. Two teams with two losses apiece. Both losses to top-notch teams in the BCS. We'll break them down. Tell you how I think it's going to be. Statistics, players ineligibles, coaches matchups, those kind of different things. We'll break it all down for you. Only right here on Boomer Sooner 1982. All right. Well, here we go, guys. And just so that you guys know, for the first time in my almost 30 years of being a college football fan and just being a massive, big-time OU fan, I'm finally getting to get to go to an official bowl game. This is the bowl ticket that a lot of people are looking for. Here's what the front looks like. Here's the back of it. So you can see the AT&T Cotton Bowl Classic. For those of you that won't be some of the 90,000 people like me in the stadium, here's the information you need to know about it. The game will kick off at 7 o'clock local time, Central Time Zone, on Fox Sports National. So your local Fox affiliate will have the game. Calling the previously mentioned game, the Cotton Bowl, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, will be Gus Johnson, Charles Davis, and Julie Alexander. They've called a couple of other OU games this year. One of the more memorable was the Kansas State, Oklahoma game that we played earlier that we lost. Blake Bell dropped the football the 2-yard line and just kind of blew up in our face after that. They called that game. As far as things you might not know and stuff like that, is that Oklahoma is the first team since 1993 to play all the Heisman Trophy finalists in the same year. Of course, Oklahoma's 0-2 in those scenarios already this year. The Kansas State game, which was already mentioned because Charles Davis and Gus Johnson and Julie Alexander and those guys called it. And then the second loss to Oklahoma, at least, was to the University of Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, who are, by the way, playing in the national championship. Another little tidbit that you might find kind of interesting here is that when the Oklahoma Sooners cross over into the southern boundary of Texas to play the Aggies, it's either been a barn burner or a loss. Going back to the 2000s with Torrance Marshall. 2 years later in 2002, the loss to then freshman Reggie McNeil. A couple years later, that would be 2004 would be the next time around. What a great game that was. Jason White's basically Heisman Trophy winning game. 42-35 victory over the Aggies. Next year would have been 2006, which was the Paul Thompson year. '08 would have been the next time around, the national championship season for Oklahoma. Sam Bradford, that game is really the only game that really got out of hand. And then 2 years later in 2010, Landry Jones's only trip to College Station, Texas, was his freshman year and was that time around. Oklahoma ended up losing that game, but did end up winning a chance and a shot and did win the Big 12 title that year. The last time that the Sooners and the Aggies played was last year, of course. Since last year, they were in the same conference. Oklahoma won that game 41-25. The game was played in Norman, and it was Ryan Broyles' final game as an active player on the Oklahoma roster. The biggest win against Stoops in this rivalry, if you want to call it a rivalry, was the 0-2 game with Reggie McNeil. It was the first loss of the season for Oklahoma when they were ranked number 1. It was a 26-35 victory over Oklahoma. Biggest win for OU in the series 2 years later. Oklahoma won the game 42-35 with a game-clinching touchdown grab play from the Heisman Trophy winner, Jason White, to one of his favorite targets in that year, Mark Bradley, in the end zone. Division and conference titles. Texas A&M, they don't have any. This being their first year in the SEC. Oklahoma has quite a few division or conference titles. 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2006, 2008, 2010, and 2013. They did tie Kansas State for the conference title. They got the hats. They got the T-shirts. And the trophy. They just didn't get the invite because Kansas State beat them outright. Official SEC conference championship games. Of course, SEC, with this A&M being their first year in, they haven't had any, to be quite honest. Oklahoma has had some Big 12 Conference Championship game appearances. The wins came in 2000 over Kansas State, 2002 over Colorado, 2004 over Colorado, 2006 over Nebraska, 2007 in San Antonio over Missouri, 2008 in Kansas City over Missouri, and 2010 in Cowboy Stadium, where they're going to play the AT&T Cotton Bowl over Nebraska. Their final game in the Big 12. The BCS bowl record for Kevin Sumlin, pretty good. He went overall. He was 45-19. That's where he's ranked overall. He's 35-17 at Houston, 10-2 this year, 1-1 in bowls. He did not coach Houston. His last bowl in 2011. But he did get them their victory in 2008, a 34-28 win over Air Force in the Armed Force Bowl. Oklahoma! Of course, Bob Stoops, 7-6 at Oklahoma in bowl games, 13 years. And 2008, the year that Houston played in the Armed Force Bowl and won it, Oklahoma also went to a bowl game. They lost by 10, 24-14 to Florida in the national title game. The best wins for these guys this season is pretty good. Probably know what they are by now. A&M's was over number 1 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And Oklahoma's biggest win was probably one of the greatest games in the Big 12 I know I had fun while I was there, and it was a overtime thriller where Oklahoma never led in regulation, but did end up getting the final score to go their way, 51-48. Big 12 bowl games and SEC bowl games. The SEC is 3-3 thus far. They have 3 bowl games left. They'll have this one in the Cotton Bowl with Oklahoma. They'll have Pitt, Ole Miss, and the Compass Bowl. And then, of course, the bowl game that everybody wants to be in, the national championship game between the guys that Oklahoma beat, Alabama, and the teams that beat Oklahoma, Alabama, and the team that A&M beat in Alabama. They're going to play in the national championship game there. As far as Oklahoma, right now we're 4-3, just above 400. It looks like we're about to hit 400, right at even, Steven, 4-4 with 1 bowl game left. Right now it's 15-6. Oregon over Kansas State, but Oregon's running all over them right now. Injuries, updates for you. There are, as there have been, a list of suspensions and injuries and all that for Oklahoma, so we'll do A&M first. Their running back, Christian Michael. Linebacker, Michael Richardson. Offensive lineman, Sheep Kleikel. And former OU Sooner, Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams on this list, of course, because he's ineligible in that he went to A&M after going to Oklahoma for a year, so he had to set out this year due to ineligibility. What about Brandon's Williams' old friends of Oklahoma? Well, as there always have been, a chunk load of these injuries and suspensions, starting with Marshall Munsell, the fullback. He's got a knee injury. Tyler Evans, the offensive lineman, he's got a shoulder injury. Taylor McNamara, he's got a shoulder injury. He is eligible for the medical redshirt if the NCAA finds it foreseeable. Trey Franks, Quentin Hayes, and Jazz Reynolds, all still suspended from this team. Those 3 gentlemen have not played all year long. Also on the ineligible list, there were 2 more added. Jalen Saunders and Stacey McGee. Saunders got caught up in some marijuana issues, is what they're saying. And Stacey McGee, Adam Muskogee, the defensive tackle that was previously on this list for being academically ineligible, he got back eligible, but now he's got a DUI to mess with Bob Stoops. And a lot of people think that he could play to this year, this Cotton Bowl. But, you know, Bob Stoops has to do something there, right? And then finally, Darrell Williams, an offensive lineman, out with a knee injury of his own. He's probable for tomorrow's game against Texas A&M. Of course, next up's going to be the live, not really the live, the post-game show. That I'll get for you guys. This has been the pre-show. Everybody enjoyed the game. I know I will. I mean, it's my first ever bowl game to experience at Oklahoma. You think I'm not going to have fun? Oh, I promise you, I'm going to have a lot of fun. Until I come back with the post-game show, everybody enjoy it. And as always, Boomer Sooner. And by the way, Sooners, beat the Aggies.